Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Yankee Chatter. It's been a while, and we're back for some more action. So, my name's Greg Andriano.
And I'm Brad McCormick.
You can find me at GregAndriano05 on Twitter, and Brad, you can find him at
At Brad Chatter1 on Twitter.
Excellent. Just a quick announcement before we get into everything. Um, there are some big changes here at Yankee Chatter. We're merging everything together with the Pinstripe Chronicle. So now everything we put out will be under the name Yankee Chatter. All the podcasts, all the blogs, everything all in one place. I'm going to put the new website, which is up and running, with the link. We'll put that in the bio here with this episode and all episodes to come. So if you like what you hear, make sure you subscribe for the podcast here on YouTube. Make sure you check us out on iTunes. That's new. And check us out on all the social media outlets.
Yeah, he does all that stuff. So
yeah,
this is what he says. But we're on iTunes now, so there's no reason why you can't listen to it while you're in the car driving, stuck in traffic. Mm-hmm. Anywhere you can hop on and listen to about 15 minutes of us jabbering on and on about how much we love the Yankees.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
The other big thing that we're doing is we're changing up our format a little bit. We're trying to go with a little bit shorter episodes. Hopefully that makes it easier for you guys to tune in and take us one subject at a time. Hopefully you guys like what we're doing and this works. So let's want to jump right into everything, Brad.
Yeah. Let's stop boring them and get right into the juicy stuff here.
All right. So over the last 2 weeks, because it's been a couple of weeks since we've recorded our last episode, not much really has happened in Yankee universe as far as signings or injuries or anything like that. But one of the big things that has kind of come out, and this came from Ken Rosenthal and a number of actual sources on Twitter, was they're pressing for a lot of big rule changes in the Major League Baseball. One of them is the universal DH, so that eliminates the pitcher batting in the National League. Also a three batter minimum for pitchers entering a game, so that could cause some issues with bringing in lefty specialists, and we'll dive into that a little bit more as we go on. And I mean, should I just go down the list here?
Yeah. Let's go one by one. I mean, there's a few that I like, that I don't like, and definitely some radical changes that baseball hasn't really looked into or explored before. So, but let's just go right down the list.
All right. Well, I mean, all this and much of this is a big effort for speeding up pace of play. Whether or not that actually will do it remains to be seen. I mean, obviously they're going to test a lot of this stuff out in the minor leagues, like they've been doing with the extra innings, starting with a runner on second base. I guess players like that. I'm not entirely sure. We do it in my recreational softball league, and it does speed up the game quite a bit. I've never been a big fan of it. But anyways, the first big thing, which everyone seems to be up in arms about, is adding the universal DH, meaning there will be a designated hitter in both the American League and the National League. What are your initial thoughts on that, Brad?
Well, me and you, I think we've always been on opposite sides of this. I know you're more traditional, and I'm more new age. Where I want the universal DH for both leagues, and it's not because I don't think pitchers are baseball players. I think they're just as much part of the team as any batter is. But I just think, as far as the quality of the game is concerned, maybe it's because I've always been an American League fan, but I just like more offense. I like not having the guy go up there and expecting an out. You know, we both play softball. We both have those one or two girls on our team. They're like, all right, here comes an automatic out. No one likes that. And I'm not saying pitchers are girls, all right, but I'm saying I don't think that it appeals to the new age fan. Now, traditionalists like yourself and a part of me does like the strategy that comes along with a pitcher batting. But I think as far as keeping the game moving and more exciting, I personally like a pitcher, not hitting. I like a guy that's job is to score runs and hit, to be up there, and the pitcher let him focus on hitting or on pitching. I'm sorry. Second point I wanted to say was I see a pitcher as like a specialized position. By that I mean like a goaltender in hockey his main job is defense, stop the puck. All right, a kicker in football, his job is to kick field goals. Now, do they throw once in a while a fake field goal and he throws a pass? Yeah. They make a tackle once in a while. Yeah. But 90% of the time, he's out there just to kick the ball through the uprights. Those are the kind of positions I see pitchers as, and I think that is also how owners are starting to want to see them because of how much money pitchers are beginning to ask for. There's big investments, and I think letting those particular athletes focus on their job of pitching rather than having to worry about hitting, getting on base, running the bases. Look at the base coach for signs, stuff like that. And I just don't think owners want their pitchers that they're investing all this money in to also have to do that. The biggest example is Jimmy Wong. I mean, that's the go-to example for everybody. The guy had 3 straight seasons of 19 wins. Hurt his foot rounding the bases playing Houston when Houston was in the National League, and he's never the same. I know it's just it's like a 1% of all pitchers that actually get hurt, but I just don't think it's worth the risk, and I think it'd be better for everybody as a whole if we go with the DH. So I know you're gonna go on the opposite side of things, so let's hear your points.
Okay, so I've been doing a lot of soul searching on this aspect because the traditionalist in me wants the pitcher to hit, but the problem is these pitchers today, they aren't good hitters. Even the better hitters pitchers that are hitters like Madison Bumgarner, they're still really not that good. They only see the field every 5 days. So, yes, in theory, I would love to have the pitcher hit. I would love to have these guys that pitch be good hitters, but they're not. The other thing is where you can easily say, all right, well, they're professional athletes. Why can't they train to be hitters? Why can't they take batting practice every day? Why can't they? Well, they should, in theory, but they don't. And that's just how the game is played. So to kind of build off of what you said, Brad, yeah, the DH is starting to make sense. If you asked me this 5 years ago, I probably would have been like, heck no. The pitcher needs to hit.
We've had this discussion.
You and I, we have many, many times. And I know in the past I've said, let's keep the pitcher. And, like I said, in theory, if everything was perfect and the pitchers were good hitters or average hitters, yes, this makes sense. Keep the pitcher. In fact, I would argue against having a DH. But this is everybody's argument now is that this is the way the game's going. This is the direction we're moving in. And it's just not good baseball. People are paying lots of money to come watch guys hit. And the last thing you want is to have a pitcher who has barely hit the ball out of the infield all season, step up to the plate in a situation where they can't pinch hit for him and he has to swing the bat, or he just goes up there swinging the bat to get through his spot in the lineup. It's not an 8-person batting order. It's a 9-person batting order. So with that said, one of the other advantages to having a universal DH is that you're creating more jobs. You really are for players who can't necessarily stay healthy. And I'll even throw this name out, like a Jacoby Ellsbury, or maybe he's not a prototypical DH in the sense that he hits home runs, but he has a tough time staying healthy. If he's DHing all the time, then there's a better chance he'll be in the lineup every game, or most games. So you're adding jobs for players that wouldn't typically be seeing a lot of playing time in the field. So yes, it's a good thing in that sense, but it kills me in the inside a little bit. But the game changes. The game changes as it progresses. 100 years ago, they didn't play 162 games. Now we play 162 games. The ball was tighter. The mound was lower or higher. I'm not quite sure, but they changed things. So to all those traditionalists out there, suck it up, get over it. I know it's easier said than done, but think about it. The game has to change. We all change as human beings. Why can't baseball?
Right. I mean, and that's the thing. The game has changed. Now, you think back to how baseball was created. It's a boys' sport, they say. It was created by kids playing in the junkyard or out in the street. And I guarantee you, whoever was pitching in those games was also hitting. I mean, even growing up, I guess still to this day, all the way up through childhood into high school, usually the best hitter on the team is also probably the best pitcher on the team, because you only have like that 1 or 2 star players that actually make to the big leagues from one community, and they're usually the best at everything. But the game does change, and it's just not the way it is anymore. And the fact that the National League is it's one of only 2 major 2 leagues in the entire world, baseball leagues, that actually have a pitcher hitting. I think it just goes to show everyone's moved on. I think the more important thing in this is that we get universal rules for both leagues. I think it's time to stop having a different set of rules for 2 different leagues under one sport. So I think
agree.
we're moving in the right direction there.
I agree. So I don't think we can really say much else about that. I think we're both kind of on the same page. It sucks that, something like that has been an issue for so long, but here we are, and it needs to be addressed. With
But
that said,
the job point is a great point. I mean, look at Albert Pujols is in the American League now because he can't physically be on the field 162 games in the National League anymore.
So why limit
point.
these guys? Yeah, why limit these guys to only playing for 15 teams? There's 30 teams in the major leagues, and these National League teams, they want a big hitter like that they can look at, like a Nelson Cruz. Nelson Cruz is a perfect example. He's an everyday DH, and he only can play for American League teams, but he hits 40 home runs a year. Why can't he play for a National League team with the universal DH? So with this, I think that could be something that you'll start to see. Baseball fans have become more offensively minded, and everyone wants to see the home runs. Everyone wants to see runs scored. It's rare that you go and you want to see that big time pitcher face that big time hitter. It's what makes the game great. Yep. So speaking of pitching, let's move on to the next rule.
All right.
Is a 3-batter minimum for pitchers coming into a game. I actually like this rule.
Okay.
And the reason that they're doing this, I think, is 1, to speed up the game, 2, to stop all the pitching changes every batter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a baseball fan, as a baseball player myself, that's a strategy you're mixing and matching, and this just adds another layer of strategy to the game. You want to make sure you're bringing a guy that can face at least 3 batters. It takes out the lefty specialist, which I remember when that first started, when that was a thing back in the early 2000s. I didn't like it. I was let the guy pitch.
Right.
So maybe this shifts the game in a sense where everyone's focused on pitch counts. So maybe you let that starter go a little longer and maybe stretch things out a little bit. I'm only hoping that because I love when guys throw 8 innings, 7 innings. I hate when the game goes to the bullpen and you're changing pitchers every other guy. But the other thing is mountain visits take time. They take a lot of time, and the casual fan gives up when you're getting into the 7th inning and the guy and the manager's coming out and making their 3rd pitching switch of the inning. That gets old after a while, even for me. It's just I don't want to see Aaron Boone walk out to the mound 3 times an inning.
Boone's walking to the moon. That's a good one.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a long walk, and maybe he belongs there, but that's a different story. But it's something that Major League Baseball thinks will speed up the game. Now, will it? We don't know. Will they find loopholes? I'm sure they will. I mean, what if you put in a pitcher and he gives up 2 straight home runs and then that blows open the game? Do you necessarily want him pitching another batter? But I guess in that sense, the game's out of reach, or the point is moot at that point. I don't know. What do you think, Brad?
So I like the idea behind the rule. I just don't know if I like this rule. So we're both Yankee fans. We suffered through the Joe Girardi age, and now basically the rest of the league is cut up, and it's all analytics, where it's strictly a book game where you see who's average, what's the guy hitting against a certain pitcher, and then in the later innings, it's just that creates the 1 pitcher per batter rule, and it's annoying. You like you said, you want to see a guy go out there 6, 7, 8 innings, just keep coming out instead of watching reliever after reliever come in, and then they have to put their stats up on the TV, and they have to say what this guy has done against his pitcher in the past. I can't stand September when they bring all these guys up that no one's seen before, and then it just kills the whole playoff race for me. So I get why they're doing the rule. I just don't know about the loop. I think there's too many loopholes. It's like, so what if it's let's say National League, all right? What if they have the 3-batter rule, but they still doing the pitching, the pitcher's still hitting at this point? Because you don't know when these rules are going to be put in there at the same time or not.
Well, I would imagine that these would be put in at the same time. I think they'd have to be.
Because if not, you're going to have a pitcher who goes out there, throws to 2 batters, finishes the 7th inning. He's coming up in the order, and you want to pinch hit for him. So what does that happen? Does he have to stay out there because he has to pitch to a 3rd batter or not? I don't know. What I think they should do is I like the idea of putting a limit on how many pitchers per game they can use. I know that gets a little shaky. What if a guy gets hurt? What if a guy just doesn't have it?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with this rule. I like the idea of having maybe 5 pitchers per game limit. That way you can have a starter. You still have your set up man and closer, and then 1 or 2 guys in case the pitcher just doesn't have it. Then he has to get taken out early.
Well, that's a good
I like
idea.
that better than a 3. I like that better than a 3 batters minimum than you're out there. Because like you said, what if the guy's getting hammered around? It's just I don't like that. I don't like manager having another excuse after the game. Like, oh, you know what? We really thought we had him there. If I could have taken so and so out after that batter, I think we would have been fine. But because of this 3 batter rule, we had to leave him in.
Yeah, it's gonna turn into a crutch. It's gonna turn into an excuse, and that's not that's fans don't want to hear that. But yeah, go on.
I'm all in favor of not having 1 batter per or 1 pitcher per batter. I can't stand that rule. I think lefty specialists, I think they actually might like this because maybe the manager actually trusts him to get a right-handed hitter out. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they can get a right-handed hitter out. I actually feel bad for these guys. They go out there, they get one batter out, a righty comes up and they get taken out. And you can see it on their faces. They're like, I'm a pitcher. I could pitch to right-handed hitters,
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about that when Joe Torre used to do that with guys,
Mm-hmm.
So I like the rule. I just think I like the idea of the rule. I just think it can be done in a better way.
Mm-hmm. And there's other things you can do. You can maybe you have a number of pitchers limit for the entire game. Maybe you have a pitcher limit for an inning, or maybe they have to finish the inning. Maybe that's the rule. You come in with 2 outs, you can finish. You have to finish the inning.
Just finish the inning.
You have to finish the inning.
You could do that rule. I'm sure.
Or maybe instead
like
of, or maybe it's some I don't know. You got to find something that works on both ends.
Right.
I just think, like you said, there's too many loopholes. And like, what if a guy does get injured, or what if the guy finishes the inning and then I just don't know. I just feel like this wasn't 100% thought out before they put this out there.
I think and this rule is actually getting a lot more backup than I thought it would. I thought it'd be a lot more people against this rule because it's so weird and radical. But there's actually been a lot of people like this rule because I think we're all just sick of how long it takes to take the pitchers out.
Well, yeah, because they got to walk in from the bullpen, they got to throw the right warm-up pitches. That's a minute or 2 time that every time you put a new pitcher in, they have to do that every single time. So maybe they could do other things. They could do if they throw their warm-up pitches in the bullpen, then they don't get any warm-up pitches on the mound. Or maybe they get or maybe less in the number of warm-up pitches you get. Right? Yeah, they're supposed to be. Yeah.
So why do you need to throw a bullpen session and come in the game and throw another bullpen session on the mound?
Yeah,
I told you before. Why does the manager have to walk out to the mound and take the ball from the pitcher? Why can't you just do a signal?
Yeah, you should be able to come to this top step of the dugout, signal to the umpire, like do the same thing where he taps his arm and tells him that he's making a pitching change. That's it. That saves a minute walking out to the mound. And back.
We don't need to watch him walk out there.
No, we don't. And there's so many things. There's so many facets to these rules that have so many different impacts. But I am for this rule. I am for some way of keeping pitchers in the game longer, not letting the manager go out to the mound and make repeated pitching changes. That's just where I am.
And I think having a certain amount of pitchers per game, like I said, like the 4, 5, or 6 pitchers per game, I think would actually put more emphasis on a starter going longer into games, which is what I'm all about.
I mean, if we're all about pitch counts, why don't they just have a pitch count minimum? Like you come to the game, you have to throw 10 pitches.
You can do that. Because that actually, once in a while you get those long at bats or foul walk to foul ball, and the guy only ends up pitching a hitter. But I like that.
But how frequent does a manager come out and change a pitcher mid at bat? It's rare. It happens, but it's rare. But if you have a 10 pitch at bat, that pretty much should handle 1 at bat, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So I think that should be something they should more look into that than say 3 batters but then the other thing is you could have 3 batters and 3 pitches, or you could have 3 batters and have 30
Exactly.
pitches. You don't know. That's the great thing about the game of baseball is you never know what's going to happen. So speaking of what you never know what's going to happen, let's move on to the next rule.
All right, let's do it.
I mean, there aren't a lot of them are pretty simple. So those were the big ones that really there were to talk about. They mentioned having a single trade deadline before the All-Star break. I don't know how I feel about this one in the sense that I like having it after the All-Star break because if a player plays for a team for a half a season and he's also has all-star worthy numbers, and then you trade him before the deadline, the fans vote on this stuff. They're going to vote for the player they want to see wearing their uniform in the All-Star game. That's the only standpoint I have. Now, the All-Star game doesn't mean anything anymore, so really, what does it matter? But in the sense for the fans, I think that's not the smartest idea. Maybe right after the All-Star break, I mean, that's fine. But usually the trade deadline's like 2 weeks after the All-Star game. So
I'm with you.
I don't think it's a big deal.
I like the one trade deadline rule. I don't like how they have a second waiver deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because I hate how Houston got Verlander in the second deadline.
I think you and every other Yankee fan feel that way.
But so I like that idea, but I think before the All-Star break, it's just too early for me.
I agree. So another one is a 20-second pitch clock. I mean, they're already doing a pitch clock now, kind of, sort of. So I'm whatever. Mm-hmm. Sure, fine.
I'm not really worried about a pitch clock.
No, they've already kind of done that. So, and it's proven to kind of speed the game up a little bit. So let's say that's fine. Expansion of rosters to 26 men with a 12 pitcher maximum. Sure, great, fantastic.
Not worried about that. No.
Not worried about that. Draft advantages for winning teams and penalties for losing teams. Now, you and I had talked about this in one of our last episodes, where if you're going to have a salary cap, or if you're going to try and get these teams to penalize the big market, the high payroll teams for spending too much money, then you should penalize the smaller market teams that are tanking. I think that's a great idea. I think they need to be penalized. Lose a draft pick. Maybe there should be a salary cap minimum where a team has to have over a certain salary cap, and that number goes up with the upper salary cap. Any way to prevent tanking, to get these lower market teams to spend more money and invest more in their team is a good thing. And for teams like the Rays, the A's, the Marlins, something needs to be changed here, because you can't just have 4 or 5 teams spending all the time. It needs to spread out. And imagine if all these other teams did spend more, there would be more competition, and maybe Manny Machado and Bryce Harper would have signed already, because there would have been more teams on the table for them. Maybe.
Yeah.
We don't know. But like I said, something needs to go into effect to prevent tanking. I'm 100% against that. So go ahead.
Yeah, I think there should be at least, I don't know if you could do like a minimum salary cap. Luxury tax was created so that these smaller market teams got money from the bigger markets so that they could spend money. Maybe if they don't spend enough money, they have to forfeit that luxury tax to give it back. Because I hate these owners that are just pocketing the money. It's just not right. Like we both probably know a lot of Met fans. Being from New York, I know a lot of Met fans, and there's no reason why those guys can't spend more money. They're a New York market. They have money. They just pocket the money, and I know people that won't go to their games for that reason.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
So I think maybe like a minimum salary cap. That's what I would do.
Something that penalizes them for not spending enough. I think losing a draft pick isn't enough.
No, it's definitely not enough, because there's so many draft picks in baseball. It's just too unknown when a draft.
Well, and then you see these guys that reject qualifying offers in the off season, and then they get signed with another team. That team is taking a risk by forfeiting one of their early round picks. So, I think it's got to go both ways. You got to show that you're willing to take away from the higher end, the high spending teams. You got to be willing to take away from the non-spending teams either. Otherwise, they're getting a free pass for not doing anything.
It's got to be done. Something's got to be done.
Mm-hmm. Now, another thing that's kind of drawn a lot of attention is a study. They've announced they want to do a study to lower the mound height. Now, I'm not entirely sure what result will happen from this, but odds are pitching velocities will probably go down a little bit. You'll see a lot more offense. You'll see ERA skyrocket, and you find out how much better how good these pitchers really are. I'm kind of torn on this. I like seeing offense, but I do like seeing pitchers dominate. But in an era where pretty much everyone throws 100 miles an hour, especially out of the bullpen, this might be good for the game, because not a lot of offense in the last 3 or 4 innings most times. It's usually early on against the starter. So I guess I'm for it. I guess we'll see. We'll see what comes of it.
I'd like to see other measures be taken before they go to lowering the mound, and it's strictly because of the velocity, like you said. 100 miles an hour is pretty much the standard now for reliever. a lot of starters now are coming to the league. They're throwing 100 miles an hour because they don't have to hold anything back anymore because they don't have to worry about going 9 innings. Then you have those outliers, those freaks of nature that can throw 100 miles to the ninth inning. I mean, Verlander's done it his whole career.
Severino's one of those guys that can do it. Yeah.
Right. But I think this is purely because of the lack of offense in the later innings. But I get why they're doing it, but I would love to see other measures taken first.
Well, see, the nice thing about this is it's just a study, so that they're going to see what results come of it. If it's shifting in that direction, then they want to move forward, then you might see a bigger outcry against it. I'm curious to see what the findings are. It's just a study, so let's see what they come up with.
I agree.
Another rule change is allowing two-sport amateurs to sign major league contracts. They're calling this the Kyler Murray rule, which up until a couple days ago, he was debating which sport he was going to play or even both, and now he's focusing on football. So I don't know if this rule really applies anymore, but it's something to think about. What do you think?
I think it's so rare. I don't think it's really worth looking into. It's just it happens once in a great while. It's not something I think the rule needs to be made about.
So that kind of covers the list. Before we wrap up here, just throw this out there. Are there any rule changes that aren't on that list that you would like to see Major League Baseball explore? If not, it's fine. But
no, I have a few. I mean, you kind of mentioned it, the whole runner on second base, start the extra innings. I know you said you're kind of against it. I actually like the idea. I don't like games going 16, 17 innings of just reliever after reliever coming in. The NHL moved to a shootout. That seems to be working for the fans in the overtime. And actually, NHL is now 3-on-3 in overtimes before the shootout, which is even more radical. Football, I think NFL, you're going to see soon, they're going to switch to the college system, which I like better. With college, they start at the 25-yard line instead of basically just playing the same another quarter. I think it's time baseball might have to start looking into doing something like this too. And I actually like the whole runner on second base to start at the inning thing. I think both strategy-wise and excitement-wise, I think it's a win for everybody. Secondly, I think the 20-second pitch count, I'd rather see something that says the batter can't step out of the box. They kind of started doing like
you had to keep 1 foot in the batter's box.
Right, they started doing stuff like that because you get on these pitchers all the time, but the batters do it too. They get out, swing the bat, adjust the gloves.
And I mean, there's a strategy behind that. Sometimes you mess up the pitcher's rhythm, which
definitely.
You can still step out without taking 2 minutes to take practice swings. But yeah, I agree with you on that one, Brad.
And then the last one I have is just something about the salary cap we're talking about. There is a rule in the NHL. When the NHL had that lockout, they came back with a bunch of different rules. NHL teams can now bury 2 contracts a year. So they could take 2 bad contracts they have out of the whole team, and they can actually cut that player without being penalized for it on their salary cap. I think that's something baseball would actually really benefit from because a number of these teams aren't spending as much as they normally would in this season because they have big contracts on their team like Ellsbury. So I think that's something that the baseball should look into, something like the NHL rule.
I like that because then you're not holding on. These teams won't be holding on to their wallet, and they'll be more interested in spending. And you also get out of having a roster spot. That's a roster spot right there that the Yankees can't use because Ellsbury's always hurt.
I'm not positive. I think the NHL, you still have to pay the player, obviously, I think, but it doesn't count against your salary cap. So it wouldn't count against Yankees luxury tax if they did that.
Well,
do you got any rules?
I mean, we kind of already talked about it. I really would like to see something to penalize those smaller market teams that tank. I think tanking should be something that is very. They got to focus on that and eliminating that or limiting that in a sense. Blowing up your whole roster and not spending in an off season is bad for baseball, is bad for your fan base. I'm friends with a couple of Marlins fans, and at first they were not really thrilled with what Jeter was doing over there in Miami, and they're still not really thrilled with it, but I'm okay with it because he's trying to model the Marlins after the Yankees. I swear that's what he's trying to do. But especially now that they're bringing on Posada as a special
Well,
advisor.
yeah, I'm sorry.
But
The Marlins, they weren't making the playoffs and they were losing money every year. So
mm-hmm.
to me, that means business is bad. So I don't blame the guy.
Yep. But at the same time, I mean, it's different. Maybe they alter the rule where if you're buying a team and you're transitioning, you are allowed 1 year of transitioning and then you have to spend or something like that. But if you're an owner and you've been an owner for a number of years, there should be no excuses. You should be spending, because a lot of these teams make millions and millions and millions of dollars and they just pocket it, and they end up having a payroll of like $80 million when they could have easily spent and invested back in the team. And every team should be competitive every single year. That's just my opinion. It shouldn't be the same 4 teams making the playoffs every year. This is coming from a Yankee fan. All right,
No, I agree.
I like to see a variety. I don't want to come into the playoffs this season, which we probably will, and have the 4 teams be the Red Sox, Yankees, Indians, and Astros again. And that's probably going to happen.
It's definitely going to happen. These teams that are rebuilding, okay, so you got 2 of the biggest talents in this generation still out there. Why don't you sign them to an 8-9 year deal and start your rebuild process around them? There's no reason why you can't do that.
They're 26 years old. They're right in the prime of their career.
26, yeah.
Why not? So, with that said, I think that was a pretty good discussion. If you have any ideas or you have any comments about what we talked about, any rebuttals to what we talked about, please feel free to address them in the comment section. We would love to hear what you guys think. It's really important to us that we get feedback on the topics that we talk about. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We'd love to keep this conversation going. I mean, that's why we're here, right?
What rules would you guys like to see? Let's give us a shout. Let us know what you guys think. I love to hear other people's ideas about rule changes, because some people get really creative and it's kind of funny.
And if we get any good suggestions, we'll talk about it on a future show. So throw your suggestions out there, and maybe we'll talk about it and we'll have a discussion, and then you can start a dialogue with us in the comment section. So yeah, think about what you like and what you want to talk about, and we'll go from there. With that said, we want to thank you very much for watching this episode. Tell your friends, your families, and heck, tell some strangers on the street. Who cares? Just let them know about us. But subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's Yankee Chatter. Find us on iTunes. Search Yankee Chatter. All of our episodes will be there, including this one. Share it on social media, because that's where we'll be. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We have our own Yankee Chatter sites for each of those, and I'm switching over to my own personal Twitter handle now, so get to look at this smiling face whenever you get a response. And Brad as well is on Twitter.
Yeah, it's Brad O'Shatter1 on Twitter.
And I'm Greg Andriano05. Check out our new website. It's brand new. Got some fancy features on there. Everything.
This guy did a good job, right? Show him a little love on there.
Yeah, I put a lot of sweat into this. Not really, but really, check it out. All of our content's in one spot. Makes it easy. We'd love to hear what you think. And check us out next time. We'll be back soon. I'm Greg Andriano.
And I'm Brian McCormick. Thanks for listening to this edition of Yankee Chatter.
Go Yanks.